What's today's date? The May 17th, regular meeting of the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. And welcome, everybody. Beautiful day in the neighborhood.
About time.
That time is right, yeah. First thing on our agenda, this first public hearing is the McDonald Heights Town Center, Eastdale Village. Subdivision site plan and special use permit public hearing for proposed mixed-use development consisting of up to 390 residential dwelling units and apartments and townhomes, up to 124,995 square feet of commercial and non-residential use, and supporting infrastructure and amenities, 928, 932, 935, and 936 Dutchess Turnpike and Victory Lane Zone, MHC, McDonald Heights Center, and IH Heavy Industrial District, 60.87 acres. Secret finding for a type 1 action was adopted on March 15, 2018. Meadowview Properties LLC, Kirchhoff Properties LLC, and Industrial Retro LLC owners.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Kane with Kirchhoff Companies, Rich Rang with Kirchhoff Companies. We'd like to, if we could, to start this evening and just kind of bring the board up to date with where we are on some of the architectural work that's been going on the structures on site, because we have proceeded with some of the advancement of some of the architectural features for some of the buildings. As you'll recall, there's in the findings, in the EIS as prepared, there were a number of architectural renderings for the buildings, and those have continued to advance. And we've continued to maintain the style of development for the buildings, and again wanted to share those with you so you can understand some of the progression that we've had. On the screen in front of you right now is again the overall color rendered site plan. We had as project has developed, really the only change that's happened here is that center green area between the two buildings right as you come off of 44 was unfortunately lost due to DOT's requirements. But other than that, the layout and the relationship of all the buildings has remained consistent. So, and we have blow-ups here of the two buildings. This is the west side, or as you're heading out of Poughkeepsie on the left. The various colors of the buildings really describes the use. The oranger buildings right off of 44 are the mixed use with commercial on the ground floor and office or residential above. Straight back from coming off of 44, really the terminus building there is an anchor tenant that we're working with. To the right of those and the yellow shade, those are all residential only structures. The longer buildings are a elevator serviced center hall, typical apartment building. The shorter buildings are also 3-story, but it's a first floor flat and then a 2-story townhouse sitting on top of it. To create that 3-story building, and the buildings all the way to the right, those are 2-story townhouses. Again, as always, the issue was to create that buffer to the more residential neighborhoods to further to the right, to the north there. And then the last two buildings are just the out parcel single-story pads along that frontage. And the same thing on the east side of 44. Those first two buildings are mixed use, commercial on the ground floor and office and residential above. Mixed use residential in the remainder of the site. So the longer buildings are the center hall, 3-story, and those shorter buildings are just the 2-story townhouses, closer to the single-story residential along Darrow. Yeah, we can go to some of the building. Start with that L building perspective.
The residential? Okay.
Yes, right. So this is that larger 3-story structure. It is an L-shaped building. Again, looking at some of the architecture, we can share this with you. Some of the materials, colors, and roof lines, and how the building has been designed. So it's got some relief along the frontage rather than just a straight front to give an idea. There's a couple more of this building. We can go to the. Again, left side from the outside. The other one's from the inside of the L. This is from the outside of the L on the left side. And this is the other inside corner. And you can see the landscaping as we're developing out front, some of the foundation plantings to really enhance the look and feel of the project. And then the other.
Are there windows on the end of the
I'm
building?
going to go back to that.
On the ends,
Yes.
I believe there are, but let's see if we have that.
Yes, you can see them there, right. Right, so.
Okay, walk up.
Walk up here, right, and this is, again, there's 5 of these buildings in a row. This is a perspective of how they are as you would be going down road A across the.
Forgive me, lost my connection here. Okay.
Again, we've looked at some of the same materials and colors, slightly different building. But that's 2 or 3 of them. There's the single structure you can see in this rendering. And again, those doors, some of the doors go directly into the unit on the single floor unit. The other doors go into
Come from in between them.
right near the right. Will go up to the second floor, and then it's a 2-story townhouse sitting above. So each of these buildings has a total of 16 units in it. So again, we've looked to create a very interesting roof line, interesting frontage, and looked to keep those materials of the clapboard siding and stone look on these residential buildings.
Is that,
So again, yeah, wait,
that
one- yeah,
top
sorry.
story, a half story, or what's?
It's full story, right?
Full story.
But again, the design is to not make it look like a full 3-story structure.
Okay.
Yeah, that was something that came out during the secret review process to try and keep the scale of the buildings down, to keep that roof line down within the 3rd story.
Again, wanted the opportunity to update the board on again how the project is progressing. We know we've gotten a number of comments from staff and some outside agencies, and we're certainly willing to talk through those to the extent the board would like to, and answer any questions that you have tonight. So, put the
Could you
overall
show
site plan up.
the interconnection, the DOT controlled intersection between the 2 sides of the road?
What was the question?
Show the controlled intersection that you agreed to with DOT, so we can.
This is going to be the primary site access. This will be a signalized intersection. Fairly conventional signalized intersection, since we had to sacrifice the boulevards on either side.
Okay.
There'll be left turn lanes, both going into and coming out of the project.
We can pull up the engineered drawing if you want instead of this perspective. Was there a more specific question
I
that
wanted
you
to
want us
show
to?
the perspective on,
Okay.
with respect to both sides of the road,
Right.
where it actually was. It's obviously,
This is Route 44 here, and this is our entrance.
yes, okay. So it's kind of boulevardish, kind of.
Yeah, well, what we did is we kept the full width of the road going all the way through. We created the 3 lanes here, 1 entry lane, and then a left turn lane and a through and right turn lane. But we carried that width all the way through, and will provide some degree of texture at the ends here, at the end of the turn lane. Provide some additional interest since we, it's no longer a programmable green space, but at least it'll provide some additional interest.
And so part of the challenge was to continue to create a very interesting look and feel along those structures, so that it remained a walkable community. So the treatments of both the architecture in those buildings, as well as the landscaping, deep sidewalks are very important.
Which I think show better in the engineered plan set. You want me to open that
Well,
up?
the other thing goes, I have the elevations on that top.
Say again?
The elevations of that architecture on that top PDF in the list.
I closed that window. Hang on, I gotta reopen it. How do I reopen it?
I remember you said you had nice wide sidewalks there, you could do some outdoor dining if.
Yes, they're typically 14 plus, so, and that will depend somewhat on where the final user, how they want to, because these buildings, conceptually, yes, this is a footprint. Once we have a final user in there, it may be that it's deeper where we have it wider and wider where we have it deeper, but the idea is it'll still have that
right.
relief amongst those actual buildings, so absolutely. And which is, again, important for the success of the tenants, and,
Getting this thing to open properly. There we go. Which plan would you look for?
that top PDF, the elevations package, yep.
Yeah, for the record, I did ask the question to show the intersection, controlled intersection between the two sides of 44. I wasn't on microphone before, just so people in the audience and at home could get an idea where it was going to be and how it was going to look. Okay, that's my thought on it.
Go down to the next slide.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. Again, this shows the conceptual architecture, really for all 4 of those buildings that are at the corner of the intersection. Each of those buildings is
I don't know why we're losing connection here.
1, 2, 3, 4 right now. So this is the longer dimension of that L on the site plan.
That look quick.
It's fine on my screen. I don't know why it keeps flashing on and off here.
So, but maybe it's not working. Maybe we can go back to the other drawing. Right, those are the live-work buildings, again, of the architecture.
Townhouse buildings.
Townhouse buildings, right.
You said the other ones were the live work, you said?
Yes.
So does that generally mean there's a store or something on the bottom floor?
Right. The concept is commercial on the first floor and office residential above. So it's intended to be a place where an owner or a tenant can live and work in the same building. They can own
The
a
vertical.
unit.
Yeah,
right?
these will be
Maybe-
demised vertically as opposed to having like a overlap on the second floor over top of what's on the first floor. These will be demised vertically so that
Yep.
somebody can own the whole building. They can live
so-
upstairs, have a tenant upstairs, and then have their office or shop on the first floor.
So those would be for ownership versus apartments?
They
or
could
possibly-
be
They
for
can be.
ownership. They
Not
may be for
necessarily
rental.
proposed
Right,
now.
right.
Okay, market dependent.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's, again, it was one of the options. The variety of options is what will, again, we think, bring success to this, because as you look at downtowns, at areas where it's successful, you don't have that same repetition over and over again. You've got a 1-story structure next to a 3-story structure next to a 2, and they jump up and down, they jump in and out as they've grown organically. We're not going to build each of those sections at a time. We're going to build them as a unit, but the idea is to through those architectural features make it look more organic than some of the typical retail strips that you've seen.
And that carries not only in the live work, but in these buildings as well, to make them look like they were developed as time went on, as opposed to just, a single building being constructed.
Right, would you like to see these roof lines, again, the same kind of question that Mike had, is that, that one building looks like it's only a two-story structure, it's really
This isn't me.
three, but the roof line is brought down to make it look
Yeah.
like looks like a two-story structure, as roof lines would have varied in a growing
Be good.
downtown.
Yep. And you got the tunnel to the parking in the rear there.
Slideshow.
Right, the majority of the parking is in the rear, yes, and the parking is somewhat dispersed. It's important to have a base amount of parking, certainly around each of these concerns. But there is overflow in other places, and there's shared parking to allow people to.
I've jiggled it a couple times, doesn't seem to make a difference, so.
Rich, try the other output. Don't use the HDMI, use the other one.
I could try that if you think that might work.
That's what I had to do last time.
Yeah, my screen's going nuts.
Don't want anybody going to Caesars here.
Okay, I'll check the Yankee score here, I don't know. A little bit
We don't have anything now?
You have to give it a minute.
You might have to press a button to bring it
Oh,
over
really?
that output.
I don't know what button to press, not on my computer. Over here?
No, I mean on the computer itself.
There's nothing to press on here to go to that.
The only other thing you could do is try to reboot it, and it should recognize it.
We don't have time for that.
That's all right.
There's-
Okay,
Need to get this one back on.
okay. Any questions? Well, we'll get to that. All right, so, anything else?
No, again, as an intro, right, we wanted to, provide that, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Eric? Sure. The applicant's made progress on the comments from last time. We've updated them in your packet. There were a number of items which the applicant has acknowledged are forthcoming. There's still, I think some of the principal discussions that remain on the table have to do with the recreation land dedication, some minor points with regard to parking, loading, pedestrian access, some of those things are going to be shown. So we expect, we're hoping to make some significant progress the next time around to get closer to an approval, but for now, staff's recommending that the public hearings be adjourned and the public hearings be adjourned and decision defer action on the applications for the time being. Our comments, I think, are pretty straightforward. I think there's also some significant outstanding comments from engineering and zoning, which perhaps are more significant to the project.
Yeah, there was a meeting today between the applicants and the applicant's engineer and Andy Learn, and they went over Andy's May 10th, comments, which primarily dealt with water, sewer, and drainage. So there's still, I mean, it's, I think based upon what Andy and I went over, they made good progress. And there'll still be some coordination with both the water and sewer, departments, so. But there's nothing in there that's, earth shattering by any means, so just technical things.
Okay, thank you. I think we should open the public hearing.
I move that we open the subdivision, excuse me, open a subdivision preliminary major site plan and special use permit public hearing.
Moved and seconded, call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. One person is signed up to speak, Chuck.
I had 4 questions. I don't think we're at the question and answer part of this yet. But I went to your site today, I went to the town site to look up the information for where all the comments were and all the new postings were, and it's down. I wasn't able to access it.
The
Just-
website?
Yeah,
The
not the
town?
whole website, not the town's website, just the link to McDowell Heights. Just so you know.
All right, thank you.
That wasn't one of my four
Check-
questions.
check on
Just-
that.
Yeah, yeah.
It was operating last time I looked at it. but-
All right. So my memory from looking at the last time was this is obviously going to be an increase in our population for Arlington by about 80%. I think the number was 88% or something like that. Is there going to be a proportionate increase in fire and police? No one's answered that yet. I haven't heard any discussion of that yet.
We're not going to answer we take.
No, I know. I'm
Okay,
just,
but they're
I'm
taking
letting you know
notes,
that
so-
I understand you're
We'll
not
go
going to
back to
answer
the
that.
applicant with that.
I'm just saying that it hasn't been discussed, and I think it's important.
But proportional to what again?
A proportion, the population's increasing. Our population's almost doubling. I'm asking if there's going to be a proportionate increase in police and fire. My second question is, there were land movers next door to my property today. I'm sure it was just exploratory stuff, so it wasn't major construction. It was just exploratory land movers. And my house vibrated. I called my insurance company to find out, because I know when I had the addition put on my property, I had to get additional construction liability insurance in case there was structural damage from the construction, vibration to the septic system, damaging it, or the foundation, or my windows. And you can do that if it's on my property. They told me with a construction project like this, the liability has to be with either the construction company or the town. I'd like to know before this gets approved, who's handling the liability on this if there is structural damage to neighboring properties. My main concern is obviously the septic and the foundation. It's an old house, but I could feel the house shake.
On that subject, I can comment, actually. I got a couple of questions. Were there some archaeological stuff going on out there today? I know that I saw some equipment on the field. So just for our information, because people, when they see equipment there and something hasn't been approved, that's a valid question.
Sure, it was, as Mr. Agro said, it was testing, stormwater testing. We have to do some deeps, and again, for the stormwater management basins that'll be in that portion of the site.
As I said, it wasn't severe construction, earth movement, and my windows, which are mostly stained glass, it's an old house, I think most of you know which house it is, we're still shaking. So I have concern that there will be damage at some point, and I want to know who to contact.
Good question.
The next question, Mr. Kirchhoff's son was out to my house last week, and we discussed, and some of my questions have nothing to do, they won't be able to answer it. I'm not even sure you'll be able to answer, because I think it's Department of Transportation, but the sidewalks that are being planned. When we saw these beautiful mock-ups of these buildings, there's trees, and I'm not seeing that sidewalk in place. And I asked where the sidewalk is going to be, if we're ever going to see drawings of that sidewalk, and I was told that they will be provided by Department of Transportation. That's not part of their project. I don't know. What I want to know is what happens to the rural aspect of our property lines in front, going from Barnes Road to the project. What happens to the mailboxes? What happens to all the plantings that are out there? We all have shrubs. I've got a line of rows of Sharons that goes along that. Is that all getting dug up? Who's replanting it? Who's responsible? I don't have a typical mailbox. I have an old cast iron mailbox. It's been there for decades, before I bought the property. Who's responsible for it? Once that sidewalk's in place, who's responsible for the upkeep of that sidewalk? Am I now immediately responsible if that gets cracked within the first year from the weather? Do I have to replace it? Because I know in cities where I've had sidewalks, it's my responsibility. Shoveling all that stuff, do I all of a sudden take on this burden of responsibility for this sidewalk? Which I really don't understand why it's there, because it's going from Barnes Road it's going across three properties. 1, 2, 3, 4 properties. And there's no parking down at that end. If they're going to park, they're going to be parking over at Bosse's and walking across. My guess is they'd want to walk on that side of the road and cross over, or to where the stores would be on that side of the road. I don't understand why they're parking over at Bosse's, coming across, going across my property, and then cutting back across to get to the restaurants and whatever else is being planned over there. Those are my 4 questions. I do have one observation, though. Prior to this, when this project was we talked about it being downscaled. It was going from 3 stories down. so that it was part of the neighborhood. It looked like the rest of the properties. Those buildings, I don't care where the roof lines were, those are three-story buildings all across the property. I was expecting to see drawings of primarily two-story buildings with some three-story buildings towards the back, but that's not what I saw. And that hasn't been what we've discussed up to this point. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff could answer some questions about this. It's all DOT procedures for dealing with that, it's all standard.
All right, that's fine.
Jeff could do it probably because they're doing it perfect.
Eric made a good point.
Jeff, do you, I think probably there's a predictable answer to some of the sidewalk questions for the, at least for the state highway, because that's state DOT permit stuff that you'll be arranging for. Do you want to maybe, would you feel comfortable maybe answering a part of, at least a part of his question about the sidewalks?
I'd be happy to answer all his questions if the board would like me to.
John, does that sound?
Sure. Why not?
Let me start with the construction. There, and my reference is the requirements of the blasting permit in the town of Poughkeepsie. And we may be doing some blasting on site. And those requirements are that there is a pre-blast survey on the neighbors to the extent that they allow it to happen, where there's, you've created a videotape record of the condition of the house and property. There's a cash bond put up by the blaster. And there's a town process in the code that addresses those types of damages and how they're handled. And I think it's kind of an established process there. Maybe that's something that's if that process makes sense to this board, that is extended, even the absence of blasting extended to Mr. Aguirre's house because of its age and proximity. I think that might make some sense.
I can confirm that. I believe it's chapter, if you want to, you can look up chapter 100. I think it's chapter 100 in the town code. It's got pretty extensive requirements for the protocols on a pre-blast survey and the requirements that an applicant proposing to do blasting must meet prior to beginning the blasting. And a big chunk of those regulations are intended to protect the surrounding neighborhoods. So it's too long to describe here, but it's readily available.
Right, but I think one of the keys of it, the good parts of that is that there's not, the resolution period is very short. So if there's a problem, there isn't some long legal process to figuring out how the repair gets paid for. And it's very, in that sense, accommodating to the neighbors. Again, if there's an issue, that's so.
Yeah, I was just going to add that.
Exactly, both of you brought up blasting as being protected.
You got to talk, I'm sorry,
What I had offered was, even outside of blasting, that kind of call it pre-construction survey could be extended to Mr. Agro.
Okay. All right.
I was only using that as the model for how it would work, not just tying it to blasting. That was my intent, at least.
Yeah, well, I was just going to add that, every contractor on the site, as well as us, will be carrying general liability insurance to be responsible for anything that's caused. Town gets named in those policies as well as us. So if a contractor on the site causes any damage to anyone else, obviously there's resources to be able to take care of it.
We contact you.
Pardon me?
You're saying we contact you? If there was
damage. If there's damage, yes.
we contact you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Your contractors.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sidewalks?
Sidewalks. So, the sidewalks there have been on the plans at the request of, I believe, both this board and DOT. And yes, they're to our benefit too. We think the sidewalks are a good idea. for the neighborhood generally. I would suggest that if this board and DOT agrees there's no need for sidewalk there, then there's no need for sidewalk there. And we wouldn't insist on it since we have it on the other side of the road. That's certainly a question for this board if you want us to have a sidewalk. Okay, that's part of the question. So the other question is Mr. Agro's fence. We believe that, and I'm waiting final survey information. I thought I was going to have it today, but we believe his fence is on his property, not on the state right of way, in which case it'll certainly stay there and be fine. My expectation is that because mailboxes tend to be at the edge of pavement, the edge of pavement there is moving, the mailbox will need to be relocated as part of the construction process, because it's probably situated within the state right of way, and again, what the state is requiring probably widens the edge of pavement in that area. So that would be my expectation, but it has to be certainly, the contracts always require restoration as for the original condition. The maintenance of the sidewalk, I am a little fuzzy on. The town has a requirement that the owner does maintain the sidewalks in front of their property. That's a town law. I don't know if that applies to state highways. I just don't know.
There was in the recent letter from the DOT, I think it was in that letter that they made reference to a sidewalk maintenance agreement, and at least in other projects that we've had, where we've had applicants installing sidewalks on state right-of-way. In those instances, the DOT has typically wanted a maintenance easement from the applicant, and because the town planning board has also typically required it, they're typically related to one another, where there's an easement requiring applicant maintenance of the sidewalks, where the town has the right but not the obligation to maintain in case the applicant fails to do so. I'm paraphrasing the summary. The specific legal provisions would be in whatever those documents are, but I think that captures it. Basically, if the developer is proposing sidewalks in front of their development, then they end up, in past instances, they end up taking on the responsibility of that sidewalk maintenance. And it would also be
Okay.
conditioned upon their permit from the DOT.
We can go check further into some of this as we go on. I'm just trying to give you an overall feel of what we believe at this point.
And I think the third question, I believe, was about the Arlington Fire and Police and staffing. And I will say that was studied extensively in the EIS, studied by the town's consultants in the environmental impact statement. And I believe there have been findings that there's no significant impact as a result of this project on the fire and police forces, as a result of both the taxes paid by this project as well as the potential impact of the additional occupancy of both commercial and residential tenants.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add, the town code provides for a blasting management plan, so I can provide Mr. Agro with a copy of the town code for his edification in case there's a problem later on. He can discuss that with the applicant.
Okay, that'd be fine. I'm sure you'd appreciate that.
Also, just for his information regarding the population, if you use the findings calculation of 1.84 increase, if you use a figure of around 44,000 people, current town population, there'd be an increase of roughly 800 people as a consequence of this development.
And if I can just offer one other point of clarification, with respect to the sidewalks themselves, I think the intent of the sidewalk is not for users who are coming to the project as a destination, parking elsewhere and walking along the sidewalks. It was really intended for the other residents in the corridor to be able to walk to the project site and not have to walk within the road or have to drive over there. So I think the purpose of the sidewalk was to try and introduce some continuity to the surrounding neighborhood as opposed to,
Yeah, and
remote
that's-
parking and bringing people in.
Right, and that's typically why we endorse sidewalks, because it does create or enhance walkability, no matter, even if it's just a few people, it's all cumulative.
And I apologize, I forgot Mr. Agro's fourth question, but
Scale.
scale, I thought that was an observation. Wasn't there another question beyond that one? Was
It was
there-
the height of the buildings.
This was- Okay, two questions there, thank you. All right, two questions on sidewalk, that's all right. So, two questions.
I 1 second though.
All right.
88% increase, 1.88 of 44,000 is not 800 people. That's another
Yes, it is.
40,000 people.
All right, well, you can take that offline. That's, you know,
Do the math, if you do the math.
all right. We're not gonna debate it here.
018.
Peter, we're not gonna debate it. Because it's- Okay,
Thanks, Jeff.
The scale, yes. I believe the scale has remained consistent throughout the last 2 years of presentations of this project to the board and to the public throughout the environmental impact process. It has always been 3-story buildings in the at the entrances on that part of the project. We were asked as part of the environmental impact analysis to look at a 2-story option, and the potential environmental impacts of that option were determined to be greater than the impacts of the 3-story option. And so the 3-story option became the preferred alternative as a result of that
And that's why you
analysis.
talked about the scale in terms of how it would appear.
Absolutely, and that's what, right, so, but that exactly led to the discussion of those buildings in scale will look some like 2, some like 3, to show that again, varied
Okay,
roof line. Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Anyone else care to comment on this application at this point? Okay. Yes, sir. Your name for the record?
Joe Lentz, I reside 29 Darrell Place. I have just a couple of minor concerns. One is about sidewalks again, not to beat a horse to death, but I think they're a good idea to kind of incorporate into the existing neighborhood, and I have not seen a plan or know if there's a plan on how far they're going. I heard Barnes Road mentioned, but obviously you can't sidewalk all the way to Pleasant Valley, but it'd be nice to go to Thomas Street or James Street, or, you know, to incorporate other people of the close by neighborhoods to walk to this place. Number 2 is the access road from Darrow Place. Without seeing a survey, of course, but I believe that there are 2 mailboxes that are probably in the way, and I'm just wondering if Kirchhoff is going to be willing to relocate them for that access road.
I got a shake of the head, yes. I'm sure
Okay,
that-
all right. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
John,
Yes, sir.
you have other hearings to go to, right?
I'm sorry?
You have other hearings today?
Yes.
Okay. Can I just say few things?
Regarding this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the public hearing, so this is your turn.
No, I understand. I have a few things to say. If you're short for time, that's all I was going to say.
No, if you come on up and, you know, I'll give you 27 seconds.
Okay. 27 seconds. Okay. You know, I've been following this for a while, obviously, because it impacts me.
Could you just introduce yourself, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Peter Dennison. I live on 80 Hornbeck Road in the Ward 3. We don't have a planning board member in Ward 3, so I'm going to take that mantle just for the moment. One of the things that
We are working on that, by the way. Go ahead.
yeah. Want me to put my name in?
That's your prerogative.
Okay. One of the things that I think we have to keep in mind here is that the traffic is really going to be a big impact. We don't really know what the impact's going to be. I mean, I read that whole traffic report in the EIS, and it's pretty extensive. A lot of work has gone into this, and I can appreciate what the planning board's trying to do in terms of increasing revenue to the town. I bought my house in the town of Poughkeepsie. I grew up in the town of LaGrange, but I bought my house down at Poughkeepsie in 2005 for $295,000, probably at the top. At that time, my taxes were around $6,200. My assessment now is $179, and I still pay the same amount of money, $6,200. So obviously, the rate went up in order to make ends meet. So I can appreciate this. I can appreciate the fact that the county needs this housing. I can appreciate the fact that, Kirchhoff is known as a fairly decent producer of good housing. So I like the idea that it's going to be market-based. I like the idea that it's going to be increasing revenue. But if it's just going to be revenue neutral, it's not going to help our taxes, I don't know really what the big point is, other than you're helping the county in terms of housing. So my biggest concern right now, and thanks to Rich and to Joe Kirchhoff for listening to me as far as the effluent is concerned, going into the creek right behind De La Valle. But one of my biggest concerns is the traffic, and we can all agree that Route 44 is a major artery, right? Mm-hmm. Coming from Pleasant Valley, from Millbrook, coming through past Adams, down Brickyard Hill, to Metro North, to the Mid-Hudson Bridge. It's a big, big artery. My biggest fear is that it's going to turn into a capillary. So I'm really, really concerned about the intersections at DeGarmo Road, the intersections to Adams, and I'm hoping that we don't get these enormous backups in both directions when this thing finally goes. We got a problem now. Coming out of Walgreens, if you're coming out of Walgreens, you got to make a decision. If you're taking a left, is somebody coming at me? Is somebody going to the left? Is somebody going to the right? That's got to be resolved. So, does everybody remember when there wasn't a light at Adams? Remember when you could just zoom right down Brickyard Hill and we didn't have CVS on the other side? Does everybody remember when we didn't have Walgreens there at that intersection? It was a lot easier to get through it. So now we've already got a problem, and we're going to be adding more to it. We're going to add more traffic volume to it. I talked to Joe, and, the biggest concern is that no one really knows. Joe didn't say that. But, my biggest concern is no one really knows how much traffic is going to wind up from this. If it does what it's supposed to do, if a town center does what it's supposed to do, it's going to keep people there. In this day and age of the internet and everything else, and Adams being around the corner, I doubt that's going to be the case. Pat Adams endorsed this. So they know that they're going to get a lot of business from this project. I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of traffic. So the traffic studies are great, but the reality is we're probably going to need those smart traffic signals before, not after. I'd love to see at least one or two go in before we actually get the project finished. Now, this is going to be a long build-out. And he's already said that it's going to be built on the basis of demand. So that's great. But I would love to see some mitigation of this traffic that's now building up, because you're getting it back from Adams already. It's coming back to DeGarmo Road.
All right.
And I'd love to see some lights go in there. The other thing I want to ask is, after the project's completed and it's up and running, if I have a complaint about traffic, do I go to the town board, the planning board, or the DOT? And is the board just assuming that the DOT can fix it after the project is completed? That's my big concern. Who do I go to? Because what's going to happen is Hornbeck Road's going to be used as a shortcut. West Road will be used as a shortcut. Salt Point Turnpike will be used as a shortcut. If it bottles up, you're going to have people going over Hornbeck Road. And if you know Hornbeck Road, if you know Ward 3, you know that everyone uses it. The school buses use it for BOCES. You're getting all kinds of commercial traffic going over it, and you're getting all the kids going to Dutchess. So it's very, very busy already. It's windy. It's blind corners, blind hills. I'm on 80 Hornbeck Road. I'm at the top. I'm in Sherry Fitchett's house. The bottom line is, when I try to come out of that driveway, it gets very, very dangerous. Now, that's not their problem. But all I'm saying is that I want to know what can be done about trying to mitigate that traffic that's going to obviously try to bypass this when it's all completed. So do I go to the DOT? Who do I go to try to get, try to get it changed so there's only a through street for the school buses and any other commercial traffic. You know, the firehouse, you know, they come over all the time, that's fine. Is there any, who do I go to for that? Do I go to the planning board?
I can't answer that right now. I mean,
Okay.
We can do some research and maybe you can talk to staff and they can help you figure out
Okay.
whose jurisdiction what is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Aren't some of the mitigation things going in there?
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just, I did just check, and the website is presently working. I just looked at the finding statement that was adopted by the planning board, so it's definitely working at this point.
Okay, great. It wasn't this afternoon. I'll look tonight.
Right. And incidentally, just with regard to some of the traffic questions, without answering them, there were a lot of the comments that were just made. Many of those items were actually discussed in the EIS, and some of them in the finding statement, including a specific schedule for mitigation for when the improvements will be made along the Route 44 corridor and elsewhere. And if you look in the finding statement, you can see what the DOT is requiring for those improvements and when they will be required to be installed with respect to the project, because they do happen there are different trigger points at
So
different times.
there's a schedule in there.
Yeah, it's not a date schedule, but it's with respect to the phase of where the project is at during development. And so that information is there.
Yeah,
Okay,
I saw, thank you.
thank you. Anyone else?
Well, I move we adjourn the public hearing to June good?
June 21st.
June 21st, 2018.
It's moved and seconded, we adjourn the public hearing, site plan special use permit hearing and subdivision to June 21st, 2018. Okay, call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Let me go around the board, see if there's any comments that any of the board members want to make on anything that was said this evening or that's come to your mind. We'll start with Nicole.
There was a few things that we went over on Tuesday, but one of the things that I saw was missing, no bike lane for cyclists. Is that something that is just needs to be updated in the plans, or that's no longer gonna be
You
there?
mean along Route 44?
No, within the plan itself.
No, it was, and that was addressed during the seeker price process, that bicycles would utilize the same internal roadway system that the vehicles use.
Okay, so there won't be a separate, bike lane though? Okay, that was my question, thank you.
Nothing new at this time?
Okay. Carl.
Just to reiterate on Nicole's, I understood that the internal roads would be not have any bike lanes, but I thought the findings referred to DOT potentially putting a bike lane along 44.
Yeah, what the proposal is right now, and we're going through the detailed design of that now, is we are providing, it's instead of a separate bike lane, we provide a wider travel lane through this section of Route 44 that will accommodate both vehicles and bicycles, but it's not a dedicated bicycle lane.
Okay, I mean, I was out to the site and back before the meeting here today, and I did see two groups of teenagers on bikes on the shoulder, and right now it's a fairly wide shoulder, but we're gonna have on-street parking and stuff, so. It's,
Yeah,
as long as
and it's getting a little bit wider to accommodate
as
the
long as
on-street
DOT
parking and such. And our goal, our intent is actually to petition the DOT as part of our application to reduce the speed limit through that area as well. But I believe, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the lane widths are currently designated at 14 to 15 foot wide,
Oh, okay.
which is wider than is typically
Yep.
required to be able to accommodate a bicycle as well.
That is significantly wide, yeah, typically it's 11 or 12 feet, so.
Would that be marked, like with a sharrow or something along?
I'm sorry?
Would that be marked, so that where the shared road is and where it gets narrower and there's parking, would there be some stenciling or something on the roadway to?
I'm not sure what signage DOT wants in those lanes.
Okay,
and
so we'll still work on that
We've
with
talked to them
them, right?
about they're the ones that suggested the wider lane, so whatever they require as part of that.
So if you
sure.
could ask them about potentially a designation for a bike lane as short as that might be, with some white lines and possibly, I don't know, they might consider it. Obviously, DOT's in the driver's seat, no pun intended.
Right.
When it comes to this stuff. Actually, that wasn't a bad pun, Peter. Okay, all right.
All right,
Okay.
Other issues, it looks good that you moved the pavilion right next to the parking on the plans there for the recreation. What I gather from the barn assessment, that the barn is now too far damaged to be relocated by itself, you just kind of use elements of it, or?
Right. The big barn, right, is the one that's damaged, and that's so yes, that was always going to be demolished as a result. But then if you don't, there's also the smaller horse barn. I think which again is something that we talked at one point. Can we relocate it? But it's way too far gone.
Okay.
A lot of rot in there, but that's the one that we are taking elements of, that smaller horse barn, and putting those architectural elements be part of the. And I think the package, you saw the package in the submittal.
Yep.
Those elements will be part of the that mail and fitness center. And again, we thought that building was a great place to put those elements, because everybody's going to go there. You know, it's one thing if we had taken some of those architectural elements and put them, somewhere else, then they don't tell the story people are going to see on a regular basis. But they'll that building will be prominent because people get their mail there, and so it's important.
Might be a nice place to have a couple of photos of the farm or whatever.
No, you and
It has been
that's-
degrading for decades now, so.
It's absolutely the conversation that we had with Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, that there should be some photos of that farm complex within that building, again, to tell that story. Not unlike what was done here related to the old Fiat factory, so people see it and have some appreciation for. You're right, some of what was here before. So yes, that's part of what's going to happen in that new building.
Sounds good. The other thing I wanted to mention is along the lines, some of the county comments, that you can look at them as well. I mean, they suggested, like EV's charge station, if you prepare for more early, that kind of thing. Put things in the ground if you need to.
We are, yeah, right. So
I'm sure you have a lot of underground things going on.
We have empty conduits, but that's what you need, because that's the biggest problem in the future. Yeah, right.
Exactly. But the lighting is one thing that I was concerned about also, because I'd done some work on my house, and I tried different of the new LED lightings out, and from 2,700 up to 4,000 or 5,000 Kelvin, and some of them are just, the higher ones are just so bright, it's like looking at the sun.
Right.
So I'm concerned about, what kind of lighting is going to be on the edges of the property, especially facing the neighbors on Darrow Place and Mr. Agro's property. What kind of light spillage are we trying to avoid, make sure this.
Yeah, understood. We've actually discussed that internally, and we're working with the lighting manufacturer right now. He's already accommodated us in terms of reducing the wattage from what their standards is, and also accommodating a lower Kelvin rating from what their standard is. So they're actually producing product in response to the comments we've gotten and the demand that we see from the town.
Yeah, it was a good comment, right? And it's a good comment, Carl.
Yeah.
We're taking a harder look at that.
And we share that. We don't want it to look like blue lights on the side.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just, LED's the way to go for as far as economy and saving electricity, but some of them.
But you got to get that Kelvin
You
down.
gotta get the right.
Yeah, we were thinking no more than like 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. So
I mean, different areas can be different brightnesses as well, but I want to make sure the spillage to the neighboring properties is not.
Yeah, I agree. And the only issue I think we wanted to take with the county's comments on lighting was reducing the height of the lights near the residences, and those were somewhat strategically placed so they weren't right in windows, and so we did pay some attention to the height there to reduce the impact on the actual residents there. So that was the one thing that we were not proposing to change. But,
Interesting.
All right.
Right, you get too low, right? It's sitting in your living room.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. No, I hadn't thought of that. You're absolutely right.
You get both. I mean, you're not planning to put light packs on the back of the 2 stories facing Darrow or anything like that?
No.
Nothing like that, so. All right. Last question I had, I guess, the county did mention parking as well. And, their analysis, you have extra parking, but your analysis looks like you're right on what you think you need.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they suggest possibly land banking some if need be, but if the project gets built out in phases, you can maybe see how that goes.
And that's exactly right. The parking, we've, and you can see the phase one where we have the most detail on these plans. In the phase one, we believe we have the right amount of parking for phase one. As we get into the next phase, if the county is right, and yes, trends may be, but I haven't seen it yet. Trends may be that parking demand will go down, and that may absolutely be true. We haven't seen it yet, and as a result, the commercial tenants haven't seen it yet. So they're still, for them to feel comfortable coming here, and for this to be a success, there has to be a certain amount of parking to make it work. And if we find out as we build one building and the next building goes up and realize there's plenty of parking, then it's a much easier conversation to still have a successful site and have less parking. And I would say that it's all land banked until we get to the next phase in that sense. But we will show some specific land banked areas. But it's true. I mean, right? That's really is that as we move from phase to phase, we'll be back here, and there's going to be a conversation about how does that parking look, and what's the right number. So that's
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ben?
My only question right now is the mail building. Could you define it a little more? Is the post office actually going to have an annex there?
No, this is
So it'll leave people going into Arlington to that post office, or is it just a mail building for distributing mail to this site?
It's just for the internal residential tenants. So the commercial tenants will be handled separately, but that's just really for our, and there's one mail building on each side of 44. So there's that's not an annex to the post office.
So nobody's proposed anything with the post office because there's a lot more people who are going to be going down onto Raymond Avenue to the post office.
That's true.
No?
No, I'm just thinking. I'm thinking the commercial businesses there like that, but that's no.
Or
You're
Pleasant
right,
Valley.
but it's
They go to Pleasant Valley too.
right. So sure, there's some additional demand. I'm sure the post office these days isn't expanding that I've seen. I think they did a big push 15 years ago and updated a number of new locations. I haven't seen a lot recently where they have new annexes, but
Okay.
Peter?
There is a lot of cross easement work that has to be done. Some of that, we have an item on the agenda later on regarding the open development area. And I think it's probably something we're going to want to take a look at, but that's work in progress. Surplus parking with 40%, your calculation versus our code, that's work in progress. A resolution letter from the State Historic Preservation saying that issue with the barn has been resolved. And there are just a lot of other things that are in the staff report. The maintenance agreement, someone mentioned earlier about the sidewalks, but there are other areas of roads. You are anticipating selling some of the units, and I'd like to know, and I think we probably should know, what's the relationship between, if someone takes ownership of a unit there, you have a pilot agreement, how does that affect that owner? Do they have to be qualified to participate? Do they automatically qualify for a pilot agreement?
would you like me to answer that?
If you have an answer,
No,
sure.
I do. And can I say that you get the understatement of the year where there's some legal work to be done? In all seriousness, there are a number of agreements that particularly with the town board that have to be finalized. But obviously this board is party to those. But there's a number of things that have to be finalized. You're absolutely right. So anyway, on the pilot, so The payment in lieu of taxes arrangement that we have with the Dutchess County IDA, Industrial Development Authority, does provide a phased benefit of real estate property taxes on the uses on the site. There are some uses which are, again, it's a little long-winded, but some uses are excluded from receiving that pilot. Some retail and restaurant uses that the town has said should not receive the pilot. So those are not eligible regardless of anything else. But okay, but if you purchase a lot, there is a review process with the IDA to eliminate, and I'll use the term bad actors, from receiving that pilot. So that review does take place before the pilot is extended to the new buyer.
Okay, so there would be a pass-through.
There cannot be a straight pass-through, no.
Okay. The mixed-use development is intended to be pedestrian-friendly. The maps are small. I have a magnifying glass. But it doesn't seem really that there's a lot of interconnectivity among the uses on the site in terms of getting from point A to point B by foot. If there's some way, maybe I just don't have a good map. But the county, actually, one of their comments was, and I agree with them, we've had these discussions about the point of having the mixed-use development is to diminish the use of automobiles and encourage pedestrian or bicycle traffic. And I'm not really sure, that looking at the plan, not that it isn't there, but it's not really visible.
Two things. One, we'll do a better job of making it clear, and if we need to add, making it clear that the sidewalk network and how extensive it is throughout. But we'll take a look at that and make sure that we provided it. But my other answer though is, it's not just about the interconnectivity amongst the different buildings. Remember that the buildings themselves are mixed use, and so that of necessity helps to create that sense. But
yeah, part of
we'll look at it.
one of the fundamentals of the mixed use is having retail and having it accessible to people on site, and in the hope that they would use those facilities.
Right.
I mean, we use we did the traffic study. Part of that study was to reflect the use of more pedestrian traffic on site. That's why I said if we could have just a better view of what you have planned for pedestrians on site in terms of their ability or your encouragement to have them walk from point A to point B on site. The other questions, which I know you're working on, are who is going to have ownership of the pump station and the collection system? And another question that came up, we're struggling with the, in terms of the parking, you're not using the bedroom count, you're using a unit count to determine the number of parking spaces. I don't know if there's some way that we can get together to make that a more reasonable number.
First question first, who will own the pump station? The town has expressed an interest in owning the sanitary sewage facilities on site, and so we've developed easements on the plan so that should the town want to take them, they can. So
that makes sense.
Obviously, it's not our decision on that, but we support it. So, and on the bed and unit, we're certainly to have another workshop with you and with staff to talk through that about how to best calculate and how to land bank. But you're right. We used a parking spaces per dwelling unit because our experience is nearly every unit has 2 cars. It doesn't matter how many beds are there, and then some of the larger units have 3. So as a blended number, 2 is really what works in these types of communities, and so that's again.
I can tell you, you're a proven entity in that regard. I'm not questioning your experience stress it in terms of our ability to reasonably calculate. You know, we have a formula, and it just makes it easier for us to negotiate the number if we can use something that, you know,
Gets
not that
closer.
we can't
Right.
marry them, but it'll give us a better shot.
Sure.
Thank you, Peter. Okay.
I had one more quick question. I remember I was looking at the utility plan a couple days ago, and I saw there was gas lines there as on the chart, but is there natural gas heat? Is that is that in the area? I did not see. line.
Central Hudson's going to extend natural gas from the intersection of Victory and Route 44 up to service the site, and there'll be natural gas distributed through the site for all of the units.
Okay, I didn't see those gas lines on the utility plan.
It's
yet,
right,
so-
and
so
yeah,
it's still
typically the
a-
gas lines, won't show on these plans, because that gets really laid out by Central Hudson.
Okay.
Down the road. It's
So,
probably just in the legend, but there's
Okay,
nothing on the
good
site.
to hear that, because that way you're not having oil tanks in every building and all that to deal with.
One other thing, Mr. Dennison raised a concern earlier about the traffic and the installation of the smart signals. That's something we're going to be looking at very carefully as we progress. But, you know, it's something I think we share your concern about that, believe me.
I share your concern, and I share the optimism that the improvements that are being made in those areas and others will cumulatively, positively affect the flow of traffic through there.
We would fully expect that. I mean, I've stated it before, I believe we're doing improvements to 23 signalized intersections, over 10 miles of state highway in 3 different municipalities to try and improve the corridor as a whole as opposed to
Right.
specific locations. So.
Yes, and it was quite an undertaking that you guys took on to accommodate some of the things the state wanted, and I said 3 municipalities and all that. Hopefully it all will work together, so we shall see.
I also just want to say, Mr. Dennison intimated this was a revenue-neutral project, and it's clearly not the case. There's many more dollars in taxes generated than there are costs in the municipality. So just to correct that record, I think is important for this board to understand.
That's all I was saying. I don't mean to interrupt.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Right, I move that the planning board defer action on the preliminary subdivision, site plan, and special use permit applications for the McDonald Heights Eastdale Village Tech Center project, subject to the following 1 through 14 and 15 tonight's planning board and public hearing comments.
Moved and seconded that the planning board defer action on the preliminary subdivision, site plan, and special use permit applications for the McDonald Heights Eastdale Village Town Center, subject to the following, 1 through 15 as stated. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay.
Thank you.
Go to the next public hearing. We'll do that.
That's fine. Good job. Good job. Okay. Actually, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Number 2, Four Sons Apartments, or Four Sons. Site plan, public hearing, secret, and rezoning it, recommendation to the town board regarding proposed town board rezoning of M Residence Multifamily District and planning board site plan approval for construction of 24 apartment units in 2 buildings with a corresponding parking and off-site connection to town sewer facilities. Chief Road Zone BH Business Highway District, 4 acres, non-listed actions, Four Sons Realty Corporation owner. Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, you're setting up the computer, no problem.
No. He must have not.
Had a map from last time.
Did you speak to him?
No. Good evening, Mr. Nelson, thank you for sitting in.
Thank you to be here. Thank you, good to be here.
Craig had to leave.
Is your screen gonna blink too?
See what happens.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so if yours doesn't blink, I'm gonna suggest to the prior applicant, you got a computer problem.
Me.
Boy.
Maybe not.
Overfishing.
Perhaps not.
It might be the
Now
case.
we have an issue.
Okay, Bill Povall, engineer for the applicant. Patrick Moore, attorney for the applicant. Following the last meeting, we did schedule a meeting with the review consultants in the town to discuss further the comments that were discussed at the prior meeting. It was a good meeting where we were able to address a lot of the concerns that the board brought up. And we're in the process now of revising the plans and dotting the i's and crossing the t's as far as making the next submission, addressing all those items in detail. We did submit a revised full EAF addressing all the comments and concerns in the environmental assessment form in preparation for tonight's meeting. And that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Kristen?
Yep, so as Bill indicated, they're working to continue moving their site plan forward. And it was the recommendation of town staff that we keep the application moving on other facets. So the board, per a staff recommendation, we're asking you to make a seeker determination and also provide a positive recommendation if you're in agreement to the town board for the rezone that is requested from BH to RM. There is also, just stepping back, there is a recommendation to open the public hearing. Due to further review, we are looking to actually adjourn the public hearing due to section 210-151H in the town code. We are recommending adjournment to June 21st.
Great. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Peter, anything from engineering?
No, as Bill said, they had a meeting. Andy had quite a few comments, but again, mostly on water drainage and sewer. And I know that, you're working, through those with him. We went over the plans. There doesn't appear to be anything in there that would have an effect on the board, considering a seeker determination from our standpoint. Again, similar to the last application, most of these are technical items, and we're pretty confident that we'll be able to work through these with the applicant.
Thank you. Carol, since we're going to seekers, I think we need to hear what you have to say.
Okay, we reviewed this a few times, and some of the initial concerns have been alleviated. Specifically, the area of unnecessary disturbance has been eliminated. At this point in time, pretty much the entirety of the development portion of the site is in previously disturbed and fill area. So they're far enough outside of the aquatic buffer. We then took a field visit to check and see about habitat, specifically for Indiana bat, because of the need to try to remove the trees to connect the force main, including the off-site area, and didn't find any habitat in that area. So at this time, their environmental issues are been resolved.
Great. Thank you. Start with Rock.
I'm fine at this point, thank you.
Good. Carl?
I just wanted to double check again if you thought any more about the barbecue green area or something.
Yes, we
how
looked
that
in.
would fit in.
We did look into that, and we're going to designate an area to the back of the parking lot.
Kind of where we talked about, didn't it?
Yeah, right up in that
Okay.
area. So we're going to create a picnic area back there.
Sounds good.
Good. Thank you. Any more on a sign?
Yes, we did go back at the suggestion of the board, and we are going to propose a freestanding sign, a smaller one with some landscaping around it, and that's one of the details that we're going to propose.
Okay.
We thought that was a good suggestion by the board to have, a name for the project. So that will be in the next
So
submission.
that's the hardest part, is to come up with a name,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Okay, great, thank you.
And just a side note again, in our discussion about the sign, we just want to make sure that it's abiding by all town code regs. If there's a variance needed to be sought, we would have to go down that road, so keep that in mind.
We'll avoid that.
Yeah, no, the
Yeah.
sign's going to be in complete compliance with the sign ordinance.
Okay.
There would be no waivers or variances needed.
Good, thank you. Ben? No?
Nothing.
Good. Peter?
At our last meeting, you said that you would provide some design detail on retaining walls. Have you been able to do that?
That's one of the items that we're working on now.
Okay.
Yep. So that'll be included in the next submission.
Perfect, thank you.
Nicole?
No, my question also was whether or not you were going to do a sign, so you've answered that, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I move that that the planning board open the public hearing.
Moved and seconded, we open the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0, and no one signed up to speak at this. Anyone in the audience want to speak on this application? No?
I move that we adjourn the public hearing to June 21st, 2018.
Moved and seconded that we adjourn the public hearing until June 21st, 2018. Call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
I move that the planning board as lead agency hereby determines that Forson's Apartments would not have a significant adverse impact on the environment, and that no environmental impact statement will be required for the reasons set forth in the secret negative declaration for an unlisted action dated May 17th, 2018.
It's been moved and seconded that the planning board as lead agency hereby determines that the Four Sons Apartments would not have a significant adverse impact on the environment, and that no environmental impact statement will be required for the reasons set forth in the secret negative declaration for an unlisted action dated May 17th, 2018. And call the question, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
I move that the planning board convey a positive recommendation to the town board regarding the adoption of the proposed zoning map amendment to rezone grid number 6159-01-283578 on Sheaf Road from Highway Business BH District to the Residence Multifamily RM District.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Ben that we provide a positive recommendation to the town board regarding the requested district rezone. Positive recommendation, town board, for the proposed zoning map amendment to rezone grid 6159-01-283578 on Sheaf Road from Highway Business BH District to the Residence Multifamily RM District. Call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll see you in June.
Yep.
Thanks.
Move forward, that's good.
Have a good night.
Good work.
Good job.
I was not enamored with this project at the beginning, but it's come along, so it's, you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Okay,
Of course, she's on the bus.
public hearing number 3, Raymond Avenue School redevelopment. Zoning amendment recommendation to the town board and site plan public hearing. Regarding a proposed amendment for an anchor project use and proposed mixed-use development including 181 apartments and 14,900 square feet of commercial space, open area, and 220 plus or minus parking space. The site redevelopment would convert a former school building to 47 apartments and construct a 3-story building to a ground floor retail and upper story residential use for one 4-story residential building over a garage podium and site amenities. 25 and 31 Raymond Avenue, zoned ATC Arlington Town Center District, 0.64 acres and 0.4 acres respectively. Unlisted action, Paz Management, Inc., contract vendee, Arlington Grade School and Arlington Central School District owner. The applicant temporarily suspended review as of March 8th, 2018. The applicant anticipates a revised submittal for June. So the staff recommends the planning board adjourn the public hearing to June 21st, 2018. So I move that we adjourn the public hearing to June 21st, 2018.
Second.
And we have a second. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
One abstention.
Thank you. One abstention. Peter has recused himself from this project. Okay. Now, River Point Residential and West Park Professional Building Site Plan and Aquatic Resource Permit Hearing and Lot Line Revision regarding a proposed development plan amended to include a single 7-story building containing 85 age-restricted dwelling units, 31,534 square feet, medical office, and 13,976 square feet retail, pharmacy, or medical service use. 2055 South Road and 83 Old Post Road, zoned R Office Research District, with a senior housing overlay district SHOD designation 7.14 acres. Secret negative deck was adopted on March 20th, 2014. WA Route 9 LLC owners.
Yeah, the applicant had requested a mechanism to table the application without triggering any time clocks ticking on decisions by the board, and they provided a waiver from those times. Therefore, in consultation with the attorney, we developed a recommendation to table the application as stated in the resolution before you.
In that case, I move that the planning board close the public hearing on the planning board application for River Point Residential and West Park Professional Buildings and suspend review of the application until planning board receipt of a revised application, including but not limited to revised development plans and responses to outstanding conditions, subject to renotice of a public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Just to be clear here for the record, this is something, I've just never done this before, but this is something that we,
Yes, the applicant has actually asked us to table so that they're not prejudiced and there's no default decisions made on the application. So it is, it's appropriate in this situation.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Okay, so. Motion for public comment. At this time, I ask for a motion to allow public comment on any of the other items on tonight's agenda.
So moved.
So moved. Is it seconded?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we had a motion to allow public comment on any of the other items on tonight's agenda. We ask that you please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. The planning board will consider any comments made during this portion of the meeting, but will not respond to them during the meeting. Okay? Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Anyone in the audience care to comment on any other agenda items? Oh, come on.
I move that we resume the rules.
No, we didn't suspend the rules.
Oh, we did.
No. Huh?
Motion to end public.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well,
Motion to end public comment.
motion to end public comments. Right.
Okay. Got a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, we end the public comment section. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Okay. Let's see, where am I? Plan review, Stewart Shops, 85 Creek Road. Come on down. We no longer suspend the rules because we really had no rules to suspend.
Is that what happened?
So we've cleared.
Changed our language. Who's for?
Council
Disallowed.
suggested we make a change to our language, which is what we did.
Point that out.
No rules.
All right, try to come.
Free for all. Yeah, I didn't know what it was.
Comment, we should disallow.
Did you bring any ice cream? Okay, next one. Next review.
For the record.
Oh, the second one is Stewart Shops also. Oh, well, what do you got? Okay. Stewart Shops, 85 Creek Road, site plan review and secret review for a proposed building addition of 397 square feet, replacement of gasoline canopy with 130 square feet of additional canopy, upgrades to fueling station sign toppers, and relocation and replacement of a site monument sign, 85 Creek Road, on list, Zone BN Neighborhood Business, .58 acres. It's an unlisted action. Stewart Ice Cream Company, Inc. owner.
Good evening, I'm Chuck Marshall from Stewart Shops. We're here for a project introduction. We do need variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals, which I'll touch on momentarily, and then subsequently return next month for our public hearing, which is an error on my part for the notice thereof. We're basically just proposing a 12-foot by 31-foot building addition off the northeast elevation. It will continue through the width or the length of the building, depending on how you look at it, for approximately 8 feet. I'm sorry, I have my dimensions wrong. It's 45 feet by approximately 8 feet. And this is essentially backroom storage space and an interior freezer, which we'll get into in the second application, which is an exterior freezer on Dutchess Turnpike. So we are proposing essentially just that. The building will.
Oh, wait, which, Dutchess Turnpike or Creek Road?
No, I'm saying this is the internal, this is an internal freezer addition, which is different from.
This Creek Road, yeah.
We'll see in the next one.
You'll see, just so you understand, they're two different projects, but
Right.
one keeps the freezer inside and one brings the freezer outside because we can't fit it. So this is an internal freezer addition with an interior back room. The bathroom will be relocated and the interior core separated to allow a isolated food bar. The building elevations will remain where brick will be extended along the northeast portion, except for the electrical cabinet. And the pro panel will remain on the, what we call the hidden sides of the building, which are here and here. We will expand the gasoline fueling canopy from the 2 pumps in series right now to an expanded separation between the 2 fueling pumps. We will change those fueling pumps out. We will put LED price toppers on top. We'll do a monument sign in a green space area which is conforming to the code. We will propose LED signage for the gasoline pricing. So the variances we will need, which are the LED pricing on both the fuel pumper, the fuel top pumper, and the gasoline price sign. And then we need a side yard setback for some equipment that's outside. When we redo the gasoline canopy, we will go to a 5-pond canopy. It's a plastic molding. So I did bring a sample, and I'll show you a picture.
I've seen that in Hyde Park.
So you're replacing the existing canopy completely?
Correct.
Good.
I didn't know how many to bring, so I can bring.
But that boat hasn't been touched in about, what, 8 years? Right?
I would like to say more, but that is actually the project in summation.
Wow.
Hey, what more can you say? Okay.
Get 2 wings.
Questions?
You're not changing the access or egress in any way?
We are not.
Okay.
So, I did want to ask about, well, let's go around the board for first. Paul, you have anything?
I just had a couple of things. One, how many handicap parking spots do you have? That was a little unclear.
I don't need one.
We have 1 handicap parking spot.
One, and then how many parking spots do you have?
16 total, not including the 4 at the pump, which people tend to use.
That's yours.
Okay. All right, hold on one second. All right, sorry, can you repeat the conversation about the handicap parking, because that was important, we discussed that earlier this week.
So I asked him how many handicap parking spots he
Okay.
had. And
There's one designated handicap space. There's 16 delineated spaces total. And that does not include the 4 spaces which people tend to use at the pump.
how many parking spots again? Was that 16 you said?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You have a concern that there's not enough handicap spots, or?
Yeah, that was my question, because, I mean, to be honest, Stewart's is a very reputable place where often people who are older like to go there. They like to get their ice cream, right? They like to get their gas. And let's face it, baby boomers are getting older, and maybe they have or are going to need handicap parking spots.
Baby boomer.
And there's only going to be 1 out of 16.
Why me?
So that was.
Have you noticed?
You're a baby boomer.
Well.
Why is she looking
Cole,
at me?
Cole is treading lightly. He's trying to do a good job here.
I don't even feel as bad about not bringing ice cream anymore.
Oh, all right, Rocco, you're the baby boomer here, okay.
Good concern.
Okay, all right.
Good, Nicole, you tread very lightly.
Is there any way we can, so do you feel there's a need, do you see a need for 2? I mean, based on you're there, right? I assume?
Well, I work out of the corporate office in Saratoga, but the code has always been kind of the governor on this, and it doesn't trigger another handicap space until the 25th spot. We don't have a complaint for, lack of handicap spaces at this location. My concern, just kind of looking at it, there's not really a good spot to put. When you put the door on the angle, you do lose some space on each side. So if the door were on a side, you could pick up some width and add an additional space, and they could essentially share this loading area. But I'm not sure that this project dictates that. I will ask. And if that's can be.
Okay, and we'll have staff review that, and maybe we could talk about that internally.
Sure.
See, because we have time.
Yeah.
to do that. Okay, that makes it.
And perhaps that's a good time to jump in, if I may. The county did comment more specifically, they don't have jurisdiction over this on Creek Road, but on 1200 Dutchess Turnpike, on that particular application, they had made a comment about stamped concrete leaving the store or entering the store, and how that might influence or affect disabled individuals. So something else to consider when you're having that discussion is just, making sure there's no hindrance there.
I think that's what's there today, right?
The one on 44?
On Creek Road. That's one I saw it.
Stamped concrete?
It's stamped, it's got kind of a brick pattern. But
I think, again, this is something we can work on in between now and the next meeting, but the county brought that up, and it was an interesting comment, so we thought we'd ask them to work with us on that.
Let's work on that.
Yeah, good to make sure it's not too bumpy.
You notice the roundabouts, they just did that in stamped concrete. I've asked her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Had all those tiles, they kept coming out, and they've done it all and redone it in concrete and stamped concrete. Whatever it's worth. Okay. Rocco, any questions?
No, I'm good.
Carl?
I guess you're not changing any entrances or exits to the site, because there's an apartment project across the street that's trying to align its driveway with your driveway, so just making sure you're not changing that.
Cool.
Yeah, the driveway is actually, I took a look today, it's their ingress only to the site. Their site is directly across from the entrance exit of the Creek Road Apartments, just as an FYI, and I can always provide you with a copy of that approved site plan, just so you have it if there's, for whatever reason.
Plus, you should know where it is.
I figure if you're changing the pumps and canopy, you might be trying to move that a little bit or something, but make sure the curb cuts line up with the appropriately.
I think that question also stemmed from you're moving the monument sign, so if you could just explain what you're looking to do in that area that you are now removing the sign from? I think I made it a note on my, in my comments.
I apologize, I don't see where the existing freestanding sign is identified here.
Yeah, so that's okay. I mean, you can clarify, and once you resubmit, we
Okay,
can,
why don't you just work with staff on
yeah, we can work through that.
questions, all right?
I also had a question on, the garbage is in the back there, but this site does not have an enclosure. I don't know if you think it needs one for this site.
Good catch.
And also with respect to that, you mentioned the loading door in the back there delivery door was gonna have a new, overhang, I think that I saw on the plans that a new overhang, proposed delivery door overhang in the back.
The exterior electric closet, and then, so there will be an exterior visible electric closet, and then, yes, there is a proposed overhang over the delivery door, which is on the rear.
Just to make sure that wasn't, because the garbage is past that, make sure that's not too loaded. Garbage trucks are gonna have trouble getting to the dumpster.
No, I think there's
plenty of room for it to get around it. Okay.
Yes, I mean, we could show I think one of the comments from staff was a routing plan for
Yes.
both fire and
Okay.
garbage, so we could show
'Cause
routing to both.
that overhang is right in line with the dumpster, so
Yep.
We'll get those particulars wrapped up for next
the
time.
garbage trucks can be high.
That's a usable one. Any more?
How do fuel trucks presently access the site for fuel deliveries?
They drive in.
Do they park at the road or do they enter the site?
No, they enter the site.
Bill's on the side there.
Yeah, it looks like it would enter, make an approximate swing and then back up. Again, an element that can be provided in the routing plans.
That was a nice way to ask that question, Eric. Ben?
If I'm reading this right, you're increasing the building size 13%. And is that gonna affect the delivery or trash removal or anything like that? Trucks delivering or turnaround, that's a tight space there.
Yeah, I don't see where the garbage pickup is gonna be affected, but I will provide a routing plan, because I don't see the current area of asphalt being changed, but I will double check
Loading,
that.
unloading of,
Yeah, that was engineering's comment also, about how that, now that you're, extending out, the back, and it does look like you're adding some pavement in the back there, but it's pretty tight there, the way, like you got spaces 13, 14, 15, 16, and then, 9 and 10 right on, the corner, and there's really hardly any space there to try to get a delivery vehicle backed in there, so I think you're gonna need to look at that.
Yeah, I think one of the issues is if we relocate the dumpster and put it in an enclosure, if we relocate it closer to here where there is some pavement being added, the circulation around the back won't be as bad.
But the delivery truck, isn't the, delivery truck gonna actually back into it's gonna go back into the rear of the store, right?
Correct.
Yeah, you may have to look at that, it's really tight there,
cars
especially,
parked there.
especially at parking spaces 13 and 10. So,
Out this way.
The only issue is that today, it's only
Addition out
decreasing
this way.
by approximately 8 feet.
yeah,
So it's tight today, I
well,
mean,
maybe it's not good today.
it's
so
tight,
maybe-
it's tight today.
The delivery.
All right, so I mean, that's something you can look at. I mean, maybe there's an opportunity to push back, the spaces a little bit more to provide some more room.
Okay.
13, 14, 15, and 16, I don't know. Anyways, sorry I interrupted, but that was our concern too.
Good.
They went off at an angle.
Yeah.
More, Ben?
That's it.
Peter? Nicole? You had your comment, Peter?
No, that was, the major comment. The only other thing that I'll just, note, and this is strictly like a board, decision, Chuck, I know when you've come before, some other towns that, like we're in, I know that you guys have done some things to dress up the columns on the canopy. I don't know if that's something the board wants to look at, but I know on a couple stores, I think you put some cultured stone.
Yeah, in
around
those
it.
instances.
Again, that's a board decision. I just, bring it up. I don't want to get into, the architectural, end of things.
You're kind of crossing the line here.
I know, I had to be careful. It's like, Nicole, I had to be careful about doing it.
So at the bottom of those I-beams, that hold it up, maybe something.
I mean, that's like your decision. I'm just saying that.
Well, I haven't seen a whole, you need to see the whole detail, what you're planning for that.
The I-beams was the detail?
Well, architectural.
For the architecture.
That was it.
All right.
So I understand, Mr.
I mean, you
Sarah.
dressed them up in other towns.
Yeah,
again,
we do that when we do.
It's like a board decision.
No, I understand that. It's just that we're not proposing cultured stone here because we're keeping the brick on the.
We'll
the
take
visible
uncultured,
sides.
I don't.
Well, it could be brick too, but.
Yeah, that's what
I mean, there's
again, I was thinking of brick instead of the cultured stone.
Just throwing it out there.
But we were able to do something with the
match.
5 but again, an element I could look at.
I think when we got to the architecture, because, we just see the top of it here, you need to see the whole thing.
The other stations in the town have some base around there.
No problem.
Granite or marble would be good.
So would keeping my job.
Yes.
You said you're adding sit-down area, is that to this one or to Dutchess Turnpike?
Dutchess Turnpike.
And we'll get to it when Dutchess
Yeah.
Turnpike.
That's the next.
Okay. I think you have enough comments to work on and some things that we. Thank you for that comment, by the way, Peter. You got ahead of us with the architectural review, but that will enable them to come in with the
Try to help,
right material. Okay.
That'll help. I had one more question on the LED lighting
I don't know.
that you put up there. I mean,
Really?
that's nothing, it's not a moving display, that's just to have changeable prices.
Yeah, it's just changeable prices. It's static. It just allows remote pricing
Yep.
from the register instead of the partner having to go out and magnetically
Yep.
change them. When you go to the difference in LED versus the other mechanical features is the sign gets substantially larger with the other mechanical features.
Plus, it enables you to change your prices faster than it gets onto the chip, so it's good.
As many times a day.
I like that.
They would
You and everybody else
They would
does it.
seem to go up somehow.
You ever seen it change? I've seen them change. You blink and it's like,
Well, when it started, and I think the last time I appeared before Peter, people were saying, "Oh, I'd kill for $2.99 gas," and now people are saying, "We'd pay $2.99." Now it's back, it's on
It's
the
all
way back up.
relative, yeah.
Just following up on Carl's comment about lighting and the LED signs, that's one component, but the other is the proposed lighting. You did include a lighting plan, and based on my review of that, it looked like your cutoffs were appropriate and following town code. So just as an aside.
Yeah, we will upgrade the LED soffit lighting, but that's compliant.
thank you.
Anything else? All right, I move that the planning board determine that the application is incomplete for seeker review and that the planning board defer action on the site plan application pending a revised submittal, subject to the following: respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies. Said response to be reviewed by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness, inclusive of but not limited to the following items 1 through 8.
Okay,
And comments from tonight.
great. Second? Second. Okay. Moved and seconded that I would just add and moved, incomplete for the 85 Creek Road secret, so we don't confuse the two applications. So we call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. So now we move up the road to Dutchess Turnpike.
Good evening, I'm still Chuck Marshall from Stewart's. We are proposing here a exterior freezer addition, which is the only visible building modification. We are proposing new pumps, although the canopy is not changing in its orientation or size. The exterior freezer will be made of a metal material, sample here.
Is that cultured metal or?
And then the only other modification is the addition of a stamped picnic area over here and a relocation of a parking spot. We do have the proposed stamped concrete, which we'll look into amending for the previous concern.
And it has to be slip resistant, but not too bumpy, I guess.
Okay. Kristen, anything on this?
Yes, here you go, Ben. So what's great about this is that well, depending on who you're talking to, there's some overflow from the last application on 85 Creek Road, but separating the two, yes, looking into the handicap parking, the stamped concrete, there are a number of items on the site plan review checklist that are part of our staff level review, as well as other department comments that will need to be addressed and coordinated prior to another submittal. And aside, also, this application is a type 2 application and will require no further environmental review. You will note in your staff level review, however, that there are a couple of items that we just wanted to tighten up on that short form EAF for our own files. So that's noted there. And based on the outstanding comments from both planning and other departments and agencies, we are recommending that the planning board discuss the application and defer action on the site plan application on 1200 Dutchess Turnpike until another submittal is made.
Okay. Thank you. Let me start with Ben right now.
I'm okay.
Okay, Peter. Nicole.
I had a question. What is the clearance underneath that gas canopy there? I think I missed that.
It's approximately 14 feet.
14 feet. And also I had a comment here that this site needed trash enclosure as well.
At the picnic area?
I believe.
Oh, the overall trash.
Right,
Yeah, a garbage can has to be added, but a dumpster enclosure?
Right.
I was looking forward to it. Where is it? You know where it is on the plan?
I thought it was in the same.
Right now it's back.
So it's back here.
It's back behind the building where the
Way back
freezer is
there?
gonna be,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just like,
Oh, they're adding another
That picture
parking
looks better in the
space.
building.
Here. Oh, there's parking.
Better than the reality.
We're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
That's where the freezer's going. Where are we gonna put the dumpster?
that was my question.
So again, having that
Yeah, freezer.
access layout would be really helpful for both fire access, deliveries, fuel on your next submittal.
Right, has the trash,
Pickup.
how's the garbage man gonna get in there?
I also believe that comment was captured in Arlington Fire's review.
Is that a pretty busy store? Is it? Okay, any other comments, anybody?
I just have one more thing.
Yeah.
Sorry. Also, I had a comment here about the lighting, not being over 5,000. Only because you have a lot, because you're on 44 there, you do have a lot of residential people across the street and the back there, so.
Does the lighting conform to the standard?
I believe that the lighting, I did make that.
But they're not changing the canopy, right?
No.
I believe on one side their cutoff was too high, so that will need to be modified, but I did include that in the staff review, and I referenced the exact code section you need to conform with.
Yeah, good point. There's a house right across the street there.
Yeah. The previous owners I babysat kids when I was younger.
Setback, okay.
It looks like I saw the shed was in rough condition, but I guess you're upgrading that,
So they'll
whatever the shed is used for there on that site.
As long as you're okay, I'm
Yeah, it says to replace the siding and roof on shed.
Replace the shed.
Huh?
Or to replace the shed.
Oh, okay.
Where is it?
Maybe you can shed some light on,
Got him.
Touche.
That late.
okay, go ahead.
I move that the planning board defer action on the site plan application pending a revised submittal, subject to the following. Respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, and said response to be reviewed by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness, inclusive of but not limited to the following items 1 through 8. And comments tonight about the lighting.
second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we defer action on the site plan application for the Stewart Shop at 1200 Dutchess Turnpike. Pending a revised submittal, subject to the following. Respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, and respond to the review by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness, inclusive of and but not limited to the following. 1 through 8, and the discussion about the lighting, et cetera. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay. Thank you. Okay, other business, town board referral pursuant to town law, section 280A4, recommendation to town board regarding establishment of an open development area for Eastdale Village by motion of the town board. This is Mike.
Yeah, so this, the town board has a resolution before it to create this open development area for the area of what is, as we discussed before, Eastdale Village. The purpose of this really is to address the future re-subdivision or financial subdivision of the project, right? We talked about that earlier, something that we expect will be coming. So currently the plan that we have shows frontage for all of the lots in the subdivision, but we know that once they start to, if they sell pieces of the project, that they would no longer have that frontage. So this would alleviate them from that requirement, and it would give the planning board discretion to, make sure that appropriate cross easements and everything are in place, which is something we're already addressing in our project review. So our recommendation would be to give a positive, staff recommendation would be to give a positive recommendation to the town board regarding the creation of this open development area for the project.
So that would satisfy any of those live-work units that they sell?
Exactly, if the live-work units or if portions of the residential portion of the project, if some of the buildings go into, for financing reasons, go into
Right.
different ownership,
That one as well.
right, then we won't, there won't be an issue related to that.
Okay.
I think as part of if we make a positive recommendation to the planning board, I think we should include much of what's in the paragraph above, where it refers to wherein permits may be issued for the erection of structures to which access is given by right-of-way or easement upon such conditions and subject to such limitations as may be prescribed by general or special rule of the planning board if one exists, or of the town board if a planning board does not exist. But I think that if we're going to make a recommendation, I think it should include that. That if there are easements or right-of-way
The resolution
don't exist.
Right. The resolution that's attached, which is what the town board is actually has forwarded to us, does contain appropriate language to cover that.
According to this document, they tabled. They didn't actually refer it. They tabled the resolution.
They tabled adoption of the resolution because they realized it needed to be referred to the planning board.
Okay, so that's why they tabled it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're comfortable that the language in the resolution covers what's italicized here?
Yes, yes, it does.
I didn't see anything in the town board resolution that addressed the issue of access, which is critical.
Let's see, where is it in so much?
The italicized is directly from.
In order to allow
section-
access to future lots other than by direct access to a public road.
But the section 280A is for applicability to anywhere in the town that this might be proposed.
I got
So
you.
it's-
Pursuant to town law 288.
288, right.
So
Okay,
in the
great.
specific instance, there's a site plan in front of the planning board, so that it refers specifically to such limitations as may be prescribed by general or
I get it.
special rule of the planning board, that's site plan.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That clears it up.
Any questions? No?
Right.
So I move that we convey a positive recommendation to the town board regarding establishment of an open development area and ODA for the Eastdale Village project pursuant to New York Town Law, Section 280A4.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay. 6-0, sorry. 6-0. Thank you. Okay. Other business number 2, Arlington Farms, time extension of an approved site plan for proposed demolition of existing structures on the site and the construction of a one-story gas station convenience store, 3,400 square feet with a gas canopy and 4 gas pumps, 798 Dutchess Turnpike and 219 Over Rocker Road, Zone BH. Highway Business District, .81 acres. Negative declaration was adopted February 19, 2015. Conditional site plan approval granted December 17, 2015. Malabar Realty LLC, Inc. I move the planning board grant a time extension of conditional site plan approval for 2 90-day periods from June 3, 2018 forward to November 30th, 2018.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Industrial Retro LLC lot line revision time extension for an approved lot line revision for a proposal to convey a lot portion of 2.75 acres inclusive of a 50-foot access easement to the owner, which is the beneficiary of the easement, 15 Victory Lane, IH Heavy Industries District, 4.6 acres, and 944 Dutchess Turnpike zoned MHC, McDonald Heights Center, 36.41 acres. And Industrial Retro LLC and Meadowview Properties LLC owners. I move the planning board grant any discussion? No? Grant a 90-day time extension of conditional lot line revision approval from June 14th, 2018 forward to September 12th, June 14, 2018 forward to September 12th, 2018.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. D4, Sheraton Lot Line Revision, time extension of an approved lot line revision for a proposed conveyance of 1.28 acres to a residential parcel from a vacant parcel of common ownership, 8 Kingwood Park and Kingwood Park, zoned R20 residence, single family, 20,000 square feet, 1.18 acres and 3.3 acres. Negative declaration and conditional lot line revision approval granted April 20th, 2017, James D. Sheraton owner. I move the planning board grant 1 90-day extension of conditional lot line revision approval from June 15th, 2018 forward to September 13th, 2018.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Anything else?
I move we terminate the meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We terminate the meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. See you all in June.